Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I'm one of your idiots, Daryl. I'm here with my brother Jared. That was a great start. Please like,
Yeah.
subscribe, and leave a comment of how terrible this Just Okay thing is. It is Wednesday night, and there's a softball game happening while we are recording. Jared, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm fantastic. I'm gonna keep being fantastic if we maintain what's currently a 4-run lead in the bottom of the sixth. So Kelly Maxwell, can we just like
Oh my
Kelly
gosh. She missed the tag. To end the inning, she missed the tag. At least so they're saying.
yeah. I mean,
Let's see this. Here comes the replay. Oh, I don't know. I think that arm may have touched it.
oh, it's close, but I don't know that angle. I don't if they unless they
Ooh.
here's the angle right here. This is if it I mean, I don't it's so close. I don't know that they can overturn it.
That angle definitely doesn't show you any. I don't know how that's not out of the baseline. The girl is in the grass.
Oh no, she didn't touch her. Unless they count the lace thing. I don't know if the lace is considered.
She's running in the grass.
We are challenging. Okay, so let's just keep rolling so we don't have a
Wow.
podcast where we're sitting in
Yeah,
silence.
just us. Yeah.
But I just wanted to knock on wood. Kelly Maxwell, regardless of it, Kelly Maxwell has been nails for the last two games. That last game against Florida just absolutely nailed it.
Yes. Oh, the 140 pitch game by Kelly Maxwell to get us there. See
Yeah, I
that
don't know if
arm?
she,
I think the arm nicks the glove, right?
but I don't know if there's enough to overturn it. We'll see.
Ooh, oh, that's a touch. That's a touch. That's the touch. You can see her glove move. This
Yeah,
is
yeah, we'll
great
see. We'll
podcasting.
see.
Oh my
We'll see.
gosh.
We'll see. But anyways, just round of applause for Kelly Maxwell. Very impressive. 140 pitches in the turnaround, and she's thrown like 90. I think right now she's like 98 or something.
105.
105.
105
105.
tonight.
That's crazy, dude. My arm would fall off. Um. So yeah, they're under review. But yeah, either way, right now 7-3. Under review currently. Bait runners on first and second. But if they overturn this, then it's inning over and she's out. So, but like I said, been a fantastic OU's. We had the game against Florida. We had the game one against Florida,
Right.
and I was really worried because it was like we had talked about last pod, even how they seem so much locked in. They seem so much more locked in. They seem so much more focused. And then that first game against Florida, they just kind of weren't themselves. They didn't look sharp.
Yeah.
And they came out in the second game, and that second game was a dogfight. I thought it was over. They were down what, two
Yeah.
runs, I think, at one point or something. I mean, it was
5-2. Started the game off down 5-2 and
yeah,
home
just
runs in all three of the first innings had a home run from Florida. I mean, they were just cooking, man. Yeah, I thought they were done as well. I thought, man, this is just it's been too much. And
yeah, and it was they were able to get out of it. So anyway, and Kelly Maxwell's a big part of that. So, and then you had Jada. It was really you could see. I don't know if you watched the game, but she had that at bat. I think it was in the sixth inning, maybe. I can't remember.
call is upheld,
Call
by
us
the
up.
way. So she
Yeah.
is safe. So runners at first and second, in the bottom of the sixth right here. So
So, but Jada, you could tell very emotional because they lose that game, her
yeah, that's
career's
it.
over.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's done. She came off. She took a first pitch. I think it was a first pitch. Kind of a bad swinging at a bad ball, and then hit a foul ball, and she throws her bat to the ground. You could just tell she was just ticked
Yeah.
off. And to come out after that, get her head right, and then hit the home run that walks it off.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So but yeah, we're kind of like we're both like
I
really
know.
watching the
We're
game.
like
So
totally in the middle. We probably should not be podcasting right now, but
um
we're in a tight spot right here that Kelly's got to get out of the situation. But yeah, yesterday was just an incredible effort. Uh, my wife and daughter both were there
oh
to
heck yeah.
see it all go down. Yeah, so crazy deal. So we did not understand or realize that they went to the game on Monday that Florida just dominated us in.
Right.
And but what we didn't know was our ticket to that game was for the entire session because the original plan was on Monday, if Florida won, they were supposed to turn right around and play another game right there and right then to decide it. But the weather delayed it so far, they pushed all the second games to the next day. Well, that meant our ticket was still good, and we didn't know that. And then once we realized it, we tried to see if anybody would buy it. Nobody did. And then I was like, well, do y'all want to go? And they were like, kinda. And I was like, well, then go to it. So they got to watch that game live. My daughter said the stadium was just unhinged after Jada hit the walk-off home run, which was just
It's
crazy.
crazy. It's
Dude,
crazy. You know, you see
here's the stat though that I didn't know. 9 out of the last 12 women's college World Series finals have had OU in it.
yeah. Yeah.
Nine of
That's
the
it's
last
9 of
12.
the last 12. She gets out of
And
it, by the way, gets out of the inning, 7-3, going to the top of the seventh. So OU's gonna be up to bat.
OU up to bat.
Yeah. So
Lord.
yeah, it's OU's dominance has been crazy. It's really was funny because the thing that annoys me is, and I know like we're really off the flow. Our flow is totally shot already. Not that we have a whole lot of a flow for this pod, but everybody got up in the arms about OU being so celebratory and how, oh, they're yelling and they're doing all this celebrating and they should have class. And I'm like, when like it's really like it's infuriating to me because it's coming from fan bases. Like I saw somebody from the Miami Hurricanes, like has a Miami Hurricanes fan account tweeting about it. And
Right.
I'm like, you're from the university that invented swag or that brought swag back and how you had the chain, the turnover, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
your men's athletics have been the embodiment of excessive
Of
celebration.
obnoxious. Yeah. Of just full on
And
obnoxious.
and you're turning around and saying, well, the OU softball team, and it's like they don't even like the worst was when she did the, and I even told somebody, I said the big complaint I think was, I don't remember, was it Kinsey or who? I don't remember who it was. Somebody did a bat flip when they got walked. And everybody was like, well, why? That's absurd that you would bat flip when you got walked.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's the context of what things are. Like you're literally in a tie ball game.
Mm.
You're in a tight ball game where every hit has getting on base has been difficult. You're putting yourself in a position to really like, you know what I mean? It was like whole
Yeah.
context. It wasn't,
Yeah.
oh, I got to walk every time I get a walk, I'm going to throw my bat. It's the
Yeah.
context of we're in a tie ball game and
Yeah.
this is for all the marbles.
Well, and there was also though the Jada one where she threw the bat down and it was the very first at bat of the game. That's the one I saw the most people getting upset with. But here's the thing. If I was another fan base, I have to admit I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it either. It would annoy me. But this is where like it's somewhat biased because they're my girls, right? Like that sounds
Right.
bad. But you know what I mean? Like that's my
Yeah.
squad, right? But I also if you go back and you actually looked at local media coverage of the team, when they first started that kind of run of dominance, they Patty realized that the team was struggling, that every time they failed, it was just overwhelming because they felt like it was leading to failure, and every baseball player will tell you this, right? Baseball, softball, whatever, it's a game of failure, right? To hit 400, which is less than half, is elite, right? It's the
Yeah.
elite of the elite. And in softball, like it's around 4. Even to hit 300 is still really good. So to only one of 3 times succeed is really hard. And then when you're carrying that weight of going to the finals 9 to 12 years, Patty shifted the team mentality of the minute we do something positive, you celebrate it. You celebrate. A walk is something to be celebrated because, again, an on-base percentage of 450 is big, and walks are a part of that. And so they started carrying that they celebrated everything. Like a home run is just as much of a success as a single or a walk, and they celebrate that way. I understand why other fan bases don't get that. I understand why they get up in arms about it. For us locally, that's why and how that started. That is how that started.
Well, it's the mentality. We had coaches. I know probably both of us, and I remember we had a basketball coach that I remember we were playing a game, and it wasn't for a championship or anything. We were playing a tournament. I don't remember, but it was one of those games where you have a shot at the buzzer to decide the game, right?
Right.
Guy shoots it and he misses.
Right.
Of course, you get in the locker room, everybody's adrenaline high. We're like, dude, how'd you miss that shot?
Yeah.
And our coach comes in, he's like, what? That shot doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
There was 10 other shots in the game you could have made that would have decided the game.
Right.
It's, you lost by 2 points. You make a layup in the first quarter, you win, right? Yeah. And so it was the same kind of mentality of you should treat every game or every bucket the same. Every bucket, every score, every whatever it is in any sport, you have to treat that as a victory, and you have to be able to treat that as important because it is. You don't know. Like I said, we've talked about this in the NBA playoffs. We've talked about this in football. You leave 3 points on the board in a football game, or you leave some free throws off the board. Suddenly, it's a dogfight in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And you lose by 2 points, and it's like, well, you shot 50% from free throw. No wonder you lost.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that SGA didn't hit a three or whatever. So it's things like that. So I get why people don't like it, but it's also the mentality too of if you don't like it, then stop it.
Yeah, Brito
right?
with a double, by the way.
Yeah, Brito with a double. No outs, so no out double. But yeah. Anyway, I just think it's a little funny.
Yeah.
I get why maybe it's a little like, maybe I could say, just to take my bias out, maybe sometimes it's a little much. But
Right.
you're an adrenaline fueled game. I don't want them to be robots, right? Like you're splitting hairs. If this was
Yeah.
the biggest reason, it's the same reason. Like, what's funny about it is when you look at OU softball, it's the same reason that people hated Nick Saban or they hated Alabama.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Why are you celebrating? You just won 5 other championships. Why is this a big deal?
Right.
And it's like, dude, it's still a big deal, right? Like, and again, it's just the dominant. If OU wasn't as dominant as they've been, then that's what it would. It is what it is. So anyway, really, really good game. Hopefully, they're in position. So knock on wood. But yeah, just really kudos to the softball team. They faced more adversity this year.
Oh yeah.
And they just keep responding.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's no doubt that of all the teams, these last 4 championship teams, this is probably from the pitching standpoint, this is the least talent that they've had. And Nicole May, we were hoping would take a step towards dominance, and she's been really good. I don't want to say that she's not, but I mean, when you've had Sirocco and Ball, right? You've had Parker and
G.
I mean just
G
name and name.
But you have to understand, people often forget that series that G won.
Yeah.
G was like what ironically is kind of in the same position that Kelly Maxwell's in right now, where she had to put the team on her back.
Right.
And carry them.
Yeah.
Like, I remember G came in and she hadn't had a stellar season. Like, she had
a bad
season.
Bad throw. Brito scores. They tried to gun her at third with her leadoff, overthrew it, and she scores.
Let's go.
Nice. 8-3.
But yeah, no, G had not had I would like that season for her was not fantastic. I don't think it was the season we all expected from her, the regular season overall. And then she comes into the Women's College World Series and is just it. Like I said, without G, we don't win that series. I distinctly recall, like, we were all talking, we're like, I don't know how she's still pitching. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, she threw, like, I don't remember, there was a stat, like, she threw like 300 and something pitches or 400 and something pitches over the course of like 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, bro, like, unreal. I don't know. It was crazy. So anyway, it's just to say Kelly Maxwell is a dominant pitcher and she's great. But
Yeah,
I do agree. Like last year, you were stacked at pitching.
right. May
And
was
you had
pitching well. Sirocco was pitching well. Ball was pitching well. I mean, you
well,
had
and I think
arms for
even
days.
last year, I think you had a little bit more power
Yeah,
in your rotation. So like your batting was just a little bit better. But
yeah,
again, the good thing is there's some of these girls that are like that's the thing is there's some of these girls that are freshmen and sophomores. I
yeah,
mean, there's you have a
yeah.
lot leaving, sure, but
Yeah, we
anyway,
were.
just
I actually was looking this up before the pod because Discord. That was one of our Twitter questions we got. Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Oh, she got it. Oh my gosh! She didn't even think she could catch it. She just said that was cool. She just robbed a home run. Golly, if she'd have swung through that ball, that's gone, gone.
but yeah. So, anyways, let's get into this pod because if not, we're gonna
Yeah.
stream. We're
So
gonna
yeah,
start
we're
our
just gonna
stream.
be. So it is still 8-3 with 2 outs, but yeah. But all that to say, looking at the recruiting for next year, Patty Gasso, at least according to whatever website I looked at that ranks softball rankings, OU has 6 commitments of the top 11 players in the class.
Yeah,
6 out of top, and 3 of those are pitchers, and they're going to need them because we were talking about this. I don't think COVID years exist anymore for
I think this is
softball,
the last year. I think
and
this is
so
last year.
I think Nicole May is gone, and Kelly Maxwell will be gone. So,
And Kinsey
you,
Hansen obviously is gone, and
right. And so
you
you're going to have,
lose.
but from a pitching standpoint, it's more what I was getting
Yeah,
to. They're going to have to hope that one of those really comes on. You're going to have to hope that Kirsten Deal really comes on, and you're probably going to need a transfer from somewhere. So will probably be the deal, but
maybe the
this will be a
Stanford
World
chick
Series.
Maybe she can get the
Yeah.
Stanford chick because
I
that
don't
girl
know.
is crazy.
She's still pretty mad at Patty Gasso because if you've ever looked at her story, she's from Kansas. She wanted to come to OU. Patty never even offered her.
Yeah,
Bad day, which it was also, I believe, the same class as Jordy Ball. So, I mean, you
yeah.
kind of get why.
Which we hadn't talked about that. I really still feel bad for Jordy Ball.
Oh,
I actually saw a tweet something that I mean, just the fact she got injured in her first game.
yeah,
But and a lot of people, I just still, nothing but wish the best for her. So
yeah,
I'm sure she's
absolutely.
watching this game and cheering on OU. So
Yeah. We'll come back to that. Let's talk a little bit of some OU football, shall we? There's not tons and tons to talk about right now, but a couple different things. Number one, let's start with recruiting. Jonah Williams, by some services, the #1 player in the class. Definitely a 5-star, definitely a top 10 talent in the class. There was a point in time where there was Crystal Ball, Future Cast. I mean, you name it. It was Jonah Williams OU, Jonah Williams OU, Jonah Williams OU all over the place. Now, the other side with Jonah Williams, if you haven't followed him, he's kind of a safety linebacker hybrid. And he
mhm.
also is a baseball player. And there are many who believe that he has a chance, depending on how things go, to be a first-round pick this year in baseball. And if he's a first-round pick, he's probably going baseball. I mean, I don't know how you pass that up, but we'll see. But all that to say, he
Ask
was
Kyler
at a
Murray, I guess.
yeah, he was at a camp, was interviewed and asking how his recruiting was going, and mentioned A&M, USC, and Oregon. No OU in his top 3, which it kind of seems to have been trending that way a little bit lately. So I don't know what that means, what that is, but that seems like quite the turn of events, unfortunately, for OU.
I mean, look, here's the thing. We talked about this last pod, and I'm probably gonna be that guy that mentions it every pod we talk about OU football. This is that pivotal year for OU. I don't
Yeah.
think OU needs to go win the SEC,
Right.
right? Like the chances of that happening are slim to none. Let's be honest. Let's all be realistic here. As much
Right.
as I'm an OU and probably more of a sunshine pumper than a lot, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
If OU can go out and win 8-9 games this season and show marked improvement, you're going to get into back into the conversation with some of those guys. If you go and make some noise against Alabama
Mm-hmm.
or Ole Miss now that they're at there, like all you really do need to do is, I would say, win 8 games and beat one of those teams that's been more of a powerhouse or tough team. Go beat LSU, go beat Alabama, go beating Texas obviously would be great.
Yeah.
Um, Whatever, beat some of those teams that are a little bit more ahead of you right now because you got set back so far and
Right.
you make some noise,
Yeah.
then you're going to be in the conversation. I think that's where we're at. I mean, right now we're in that weird spot where it's the summer. Um, you're at the peak of negative recruiting. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. There's a lot of guys high on OU, but OU's got a glaring weakness that we've already talked about,
Yeah.
and everybody knows it,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that that's one of those things that brings up a concern for a lot of people. So that is where we are. That's just we're in the season of negative recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of it. But I think also, I think I, it's not missed on me that the schools that have been known to write some of the most absurd checks for the guys that are at the top of their list are on his list.
Yeah,
And I know Josh McCuistion and some others say that that's not a big deal and on and on and on. But it is interesting that OU's gone from the front runner now to all of a sudden behind Oregon, money backed, USC, money bags when they really want somebody, and A&M, who also has been more than okay to write, $90 million checks to coaches and stuff. So, I mean, I don't think that is a coincidence, on anything. So we'll see, but that is a big turn. And you hope that OU can get another visit, get another look. Because look, if he chooses to play football, I don't think that I don't think there's been a guy yet that Venables has brought in that fits his mold of what he wants at linebacker like this kid does.
yep.
Fast, big, physical, smart, long, and athletic. Like Lewis Carter, super athletic, an absolute hammer, short and compact, not very big, not very long, right? Um, even Kobe McKenzie, not very light of foot, but a hammer and really smart. Kip Lewis, light and just kind of average size. I mean, like he does not have those guys like he had at Clemson playing in that
He's
spot.
that guy that comes in with the full toolbox. We've talked about all these other guys,
Yeah,
like Kip or yeah, like I we'll just talk Kip Lewis. Kip is the guy that needs to add weight. If
yeah,
he had size, that guy is crazy.
yeah,
But there's the but. Every one of those guys you just listed, there's a but to them. Even
yeah.
with Danny Stutzman, right? Like
Oh
Danny
yeah,
Stutzman's not like he's not. I don't think he fits the mold of what he fits the mold of for Venables in the sense that he's a smart linebacker
yeah,
and he's taking on that leadership role. But as
right,
far as a physical specimen, I don't look at Danny and go, man, Danny's just like Danny's that guy that he's not going to be a first round draft pick or whatever, right? Like
yeah,
even as good as he could be, he could go win the Buckus this year and still probably be a second or third round guy.
yeah,
Just because physically he's not as imposing as what Venables has had at Clemson or wherever.
right.
So
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there with that. The other thing, OU football wise, that you were kind of mentioning. So if you'd like to go find it, there's a good article out. SEC coaches interviewed anonymously to give their opinions on the other schools in the conference, right?
one out of the way, by the way.
One out of one.
Seventh strikeout. Jeez.
There we go. Let's go. So we are one out away from having a one-game lead in the College World Series. And that is a beautiful thing. So, but all that to say, so on anonymous coaches were interviewed and asked, and I definitely think the consensus kind of thought process around OU, and I want to kind of bring up my own thing was if they can find an O-line, they're going to be a problem. And the other consensus was that's a really good coaching staff, which I like that. I think that that's a big deal when you ask an opposing coach, what do you think about OU? And they like, it's not that you're being asked, but like that you give forth on your own. That coaching staff's good, man. That's a really good coaching staff. You love that. But they all basically said that OU has an O-line problem. And yet again, I think there's a balanced way to talk about it. But Bill Bedenbaugh, and he did last class, I think, start to turn that tide on the recruiting front. But you can't lose guys in the portal this year. You got to hang on to the guys that are playing for you, and you've got to develop guys fast. If you can do that, you've got a shot. How did you feel about that statement coming
Ball
out
game,
in there?
ball
Let's
game with
go.
a with a strikeout looking.
Nice. I'm
Sorry.
behind on
So
my stream, so
8-3 is the final. OU beats Texas. So they are up one game. They've won the first game of a series, best of three. So I think they play tomorrow.
yes, that is correct.
So Kelly Maxwell, if she pitches, they're literally going to wheel her to like uh, I don't know. They have scientific alien technology that heals her arm. I believe. If she's able to pitch tomorrow. But still, anyways, good thing for you. But yeah, I know I don't disagree. To go back to the football thing, since we've talked about softball a ton already. Um, you're not wrong. I mean, I think I think the thing is it's really interesting when you also take a step back, and this is where I get it's really where you get into that territory that it's really hard to like justify or figure out, like wrap your head around it. It really is the part where it proves how gray it is to say whether an O line's good or bad, right?
Hmm.
You just had an O lineman drafted in the first round, right? You just had 1 year. I mean, he did end up leaving, but Caden Green was one of the better looking offensive linemen in the Big 12,
Yep.
right? Um, you know what I mean? Like you've had those marks of showing that you have talent, right? And you have development even. Um, but you've not been able to put that across the board.
Yeah.
We obviously last year we circled Andrew Rain. Now it feels like maybe we want Andrew back. I don't know that I go that far, but the center position's a big question mark this year, right?
Yeah.
Along with just a lot of other positions on that O line, and you have the guys. And this is the thing, like there's guys that they brought in this year, and like you said, this is the problem with O line. It is extremely rare. Caden Green is an anomaly. There's very rare that you can take a true freshman as an O lineman and throw him out there on the field and him actually be able to play, especially in the SEC.
Right.
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 But you have guys that I think in their careers are going to be able to be those guys, like Eddie Pierre Louis. I'm huge on that guy. Dude is an
Yes.
athletic freak. I mean,
100%.
just crazy. Just and like I said, a lot, pretty much almost every guy they brought in on the O line as a freshman, I'm high on.
Yeah.
However, I also don't look at any of those guys and like think that at least out of the box when they came in the spring or they're coming in now, that I look at and go, man, they're just going to be able to handle an SEC D line. That's the problem.
Right. Right.
So they're going to have to make work with what they got. The kid from North Texas, I keep forgetting his name. I keep hearing like I've heard a lot of
Bebechi
good.
Nwiwu.
Yeah, he's apparently pretty good. So you're just going to figure it out. But yeah, I mean that's the frustrating part, and this feels like this is the one thing I had this thought today, or the other day, because I remember I think you texted us about this. Maybe it was today or yesterday. I don't remember. All my days blend together anymore. Um, but you remember like there was those years like OU won the national title in 2000, and
Right.
then it felt to me like every year after that, OU was one piece away from being a dominant team.
Yeah.
Like, and that's no dig at Stoops or his staffs. It's just that's how it works out sometimes. Like you were like, okay, we're really good. There's years where it's like you're loaded at wide receiver, but your quarterback kind of
Yeah.
or whatever. It was one of those things where you're always missing that one piece to go win a national title. So
Mhm.
this year, unfortunately, it's O line, which is going to be one of the most critical units in the SEC.
Yeah. Now the other thing that was in this article a little bit, I wouldn't say it was across the board, because Jackson Arnold was brought up a lot. Some just saying he's really good, others saying if Jackson Arnold is really good, and we definitely need to bring this up with Troy when he's back on. The more I continue to think about Jackson Arnold, the more I am worried.
Okay.
And not because he doesn't have the talent or anything else, but I would say that I'm afraid that even me has gotten sucked into the Jackson Arnold is the next thing. You know, I mean, like for an example, when Dylan Gabriel announced he was leaving, there were people happy because we get to hand it off to Jackson Arnold, which, look, I would rather have him here than transfer. Can agree with that. But like the BYU game, everybody's like, he came in and saved us. I mean, he had a good throw to get a first down, but the rest of that game, he was not great that he came in and played. Arizona was a mixed bag. There was really high highs and there was a lot of really low lows, right? Spring game, some really high highs, some really low lows. I mean, when we talk about game action for Jackson Arnold, I haven't seen anything that makes me go, dang, this kid's going to be killer.
I hate people are gonna there's gonna be people that are gonna send me like hate messages probably for this. The comparison right now is Spencer Rattler.
Oh,
Not from a
wow.
leadership standpoint, but like let's all be honest. Let's all take a step back. And I said, and I've said this. I said this during the draft process. I said this when Spencer left. When Spencer was still at OU, I've said this. Purely taking a football, giving it to Spencer Rattler and saying, throwing it in that trash can down the field or whatever. Spencer Rattler has it. Like as far as pure throwing the football talent, Spencer Rattler is
One of the
amazing.
best we've seen. Yeah.
I mean, he is, and you can't argue that. Now, if you want to start dragging in all the intangibles, which I agree are important, then yeah, there's a lot of question marks with Spencer Rattler, and those things reared their heads, right? However, I don't see those with Jackson Arnold, but that's my comparison in the sense of Jackson Arnold against Arizona made a lot of those mistakes where I felt like when I was watching it, Jackson Arnold can take a football and throw it like very few humans on earth can.
Mm-hmm.
But then he would make a throw that wasn't, it was just, where, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're not reading, you're not taking the time to read the defense. You're not taking the time to feel that offense. Now, there's a lot of things. And this is where I give him a little bit of breathing room.
Right.
Is
Sure.
because the BYU game, he gets dragged in.
Right.
Wasn't expecting to start. He gets dragged into the game. He does enough to win the game.
Right.
You put him in the Arizona game, new offensive coordinator, new the system is very similar, but there's still like I also hate like it's not the same as going from triple option to spread or something, right?
Right.
But every little thing, every little cue, offenses and at the college level even are so tightly coordinated that those little changes, those little innocuous things that for us on TV are huge to every player on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I give him a little bit of a break there. Now, again, the spring game, not fantastic, but again, we've talked about this. Kyler Murray's spring game was terrible.
Yes.
Baker
Yes.
Mayfield's spring games were pretty terrible
His
most of the
his
time.
second spring game. His first one
Yeah,
was the one that everybody went, "Holy cow, who is that guy?" when he went like 9 for 9
yeah,
in the game.
yeah. So that is what it is. Um, yeah, I am interested to see, but I do agree. I still put an if. I'm with you though. I put an if Jackson Arnold can be that good.
Yeah.
Physically,
Because
physically, he has it. Is what I'm saying.
right.
If you want to tell me, if you say put a trash can down at some random part of the field and tell him to throw the ball into it, Jackson Arnold's one of the first people I'm picking to do it.
Yeah.
But
If you want a quarterback to come off the bus and everybody go, "Dang, that guy looks like a player," Jackson Arnold fits it.
yeah,
If you want a guy that can run and you go, "Dang, that guy's really athletic," he's got it. It is all going to come down to being able to read defenses, finding your spots, placing the ball, and then when the picture changes, right? When a team shows you man and shifts into cloud, can you make that adjustment? Like on the fly, can you adjust, right, to what's coming? And that's going to be the difference maker. And he has to do it with a bad offensive line. At least as of now, I'm going to say a bad offensive line.
I don't
So
think anybody's going to argue against you.
uh, there's some people. I'm telling you, there's already a lot of hype train about this offensive line's way better than everybody thinks it is. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to see that against good competition to believe it. But all that to say, he's gonna have that mentality. Like, he cannot have the mentality of, I just got to take a step more. He has to carry this offense.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be so on point, and not from like putting pressure on himself, but like, I just know what they're going to do as a defense so well. And I know what our offense is trying to do so well that I know what I want to do with the ball every single time. And I can make those decisions quickly and efficiently enough to where even if there is a pass rush on me, nobody's putting a hand on me. Like, he's got to be a Tom Brady. Like, and I know that's a big, but like, that's too far. I understand. But I'm just saying, I know exactly what I want to do with the ball. And if I see zone that shifts to man or man that shifts to zone, and we have this play call on, I know that I want to switch to this receiver right here, right now. Like, in the midst of it, those are the things he's got to start doing and speeding up in his mind. If this and this happens, I need to run the football because nothing's going to be there. You know, I mean, that kind of stuff before the ball ever snaps. If he can do that, I think he can elevate this offense. And look, just don't turn the ball over because you got a defense that should, in theory, be elite this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, okay, let me address that. And I want to ask you something
Oh
after
boy.
that. The defense it seems like it's going to be fantastic. There's some question marks even there a little bit here and there. Defensive line, who's going to be who, like who's going to step up. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. He's got to be that guy that he's got to be a leader. I think people aren't addressing that enough.
Right.
Because again, you want to look at, people are going to get mad at me for keep referencing him. Spencer Rattler was not a leader.
No.
Nobody wanted to follow him.
No.
That's been pretty well spoken now that nobody really cared for Spencer Rattler on campus.
Right.
And I think people like Jackson Arnold, but it's a difference between people to like you and people to follow you.
Right.
And he's got to make that switch. As much as people were ready for Dylan Gabriel to move on or whatever, Dylan Gabriel was a leader.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that he wasn't a leader, and he did a lot of things. I will say this. I'll give you, I'll give you Dylan. I'm sure you're not listening to this podcast, but if you are, Dylan Gabriel, as far as a leader this last year, was elite.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Elite.
100%.
And I'm talking about from the off season to through the season, everything. He was elite. So, salute to Dylan Gabriel. I think Jackson Arnold in that capacity, that's going to be the toughest thing for him to fill, is that leadership void that Dylan Gabriel left. I think talent-wise, he's far superior to Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
As far as throwing a football, he is better. But
Yeah.
leadership is we've talked about this, and this is why, look at the NFL, even though there's crazy wide receiver contracts get thrown out right now. Look at the NFL. Guys are getting paid. Kirk Cousins just got paid however many millions of dollars.
Right.
Because people are that desperate to get a quarterback that's just good.
Yeah.
That's why, because it's the most important position on the field. Probably even more so in college than it is even in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to work with. So anyways, he's going to have to work on that. I think there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of question marks. As much as we all are high on him, and I think we should be, we have every right to be, make sure you put a question mark at the end of it, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I found interesting, and I want to just point this out because I saw this the other day. There's been they've released some of the top players at each position in the EA Sports College Football game, right?
Yes. Yes.
Do you know who was not in the top 10 at their position group?
From OU?
Yes.
I think I heard somebody say this the other day, but no, I mean,
Billy Bowman.
oh yes, I did hear this. Yeah.
Billy Bowman, not even in the top 10.
Yeah. I know people are gonna but I'm sorry, man. The dude's undersized and he misses lots of tackles.
Here's my thing with it though, and it's not even to talk about. We can go around and around about that. It is kind of funny going back to the days of having the ratings, especially now with social media being bigger than it was in 2013 or 14 or whatever the last game was. Because I don't know if you saw the Texas State thing where the kid figured out based on the clip. For one, it was somebody pointed out that they got the Texas State Stadium wrong because it has an upper deck and they didn't put that in the game. And then
Right.
two, one of the players figured out that he's 55 overall rated, and he was like, 55 what?
Uh,
Um. Anyway, those sorts of things. It's really interesting. I just thought it was funny because I was like, as much disrespect as he got last year when he led so many statistical categories,
right.
to not get any of the praise or love that he deserved, as much as you want to say the things you can say about his game or his size, he deserved to be on a lot
Yes.
of watch lists, a lot of finalist lists, a lot of those things. Should he have won the awards? You can argue that all you want,
Right.
but to not be like the fact that he wasn't on some of those finalist lists or
Yeah.
even some of the semi-finalist lists,
Right.
I'm going, what are we doing? So anyways, I just think that that's one of those things that for Billy, I think he's going to use as fuel. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But I mean, again, you got a bunch of people in a room, and I mean, look, Billy Bowman's 5'9", man, 5'10"
yeah,
at the best. He doesn't weigh a ton, and
yeah.
you can watch a lot of clips where he bounces off of guys, and that's not from lack of effort or anything else. I mean, it just is what it is. And I think reality wise too is they're probably putting that grade is coming from a totality, right? So think about, for example, Billy Bowman under Lincoln Riley to Billy Bowman under BV. I mean, I think we can all agree the rating for Billy Bowman under Lincoln Riley would have been extremely low. And then I would say the first year of BV, it was right? Like, okay. Like, there's been improvement. Last year was the first year that you watched him and went, holy crap, like he is figuring this out. Like, I think from us as watching him every week said he played really, really, really well, right? Still missed some things, all that stuff. But when you do that all together, you're not going to get a very high rating. Whereas there are other guys that came in on the scene immediately playing really well. And so
Right.
they immediately get the bump and then they do consistent. So you just have to realize those things. So like that doesn't overly bother me, whereas Danny Stutzman kind of looked great under Lincoln Riley and then got hurt and missed the rest of the season. Then he looked really, really bad, right? Then he looked a little better. And really had a great season last year, right? So
Which
that's
Danny Stutzman, but the funny thing but then again, you go to Danny Stutzman, but Danny Stutzman's like the third or fourth highest rated linebacker
right.
in the whole game.
And that's what I'm saying though.
Um,
But he had one really bad year because as a true freshman, he was playing and people were going, dang, this kid might be great. And then that's when he tore his elbow all apart and he missed the rest of it. So that was a red shirt. Then his freshman year, right? It was not good. But he still racked up tackles. And then first year on BV, you could tell he was just thinking too much, but he still had an okay year. But that's what I'm saying. He had a wow factor, not so good. Okay, we're coming back and now we're good. Billy was bad, still bad, looking better, great, kind of progression. So
yeah.
I get it.
Either way, I just think I was just trying to highlight that. I just thought it was funny. I was like, there's going to be guys that are going to use that as fuel, I
Oh,
think, which is funny.
100%.
And even in this year, that's what I'm saying. Like, not to say guys in 2012, 13, 14, or whatever, the last years of college football didn't talk about it. But in this day and age, 10 years later, with
Oh
the way
man.
social media, there's chirping.
Well, and everybody in
There's
their
DMs.
class. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm still, by the way, so hyped for that game. What's funny is I literally have had people text me, by the way, what console, because there's no cross platform, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so
Not they're saying not year one, they hope for year two.
yeah, so there's no, if you have PlayStation, you can't play with people on Xbox and vice versa, whatever. So I've had people literally text me and like, what console are you getting it on? Like, I'm
Yeah.
getting it on
Oh yeah.
Xbox. So,
Well, our buddy
um,
Tyler, he bought an Xbox for this game to play Dynasty. That's
yeah,
it. That's the only reason. So
yeah,
it's definitely going to impact the gaming market for sure. So
yeah.
we'll end with any other thoughts on OU softball, but let's go Thunder basketball. We're just going to hit one thing tonight, just really quickly. Texted this out to you and to Troy. Troy couldn't join us, which, by the way, Troy's was at the game tonight. So good on you, Troy, being there, celebrating, seeing
Yeah,
that in
yeah, yeah.
person. Um, so there's all kinds of right now, right? Like with so many picks, with so much money left, right? All the different things. It feels like the Thunder have been linked to about 36,000 players that are in some form of free agent, European player, whatever, right now coming up. So I just pose this question. Who would you trade for? Who would you trade for this team? Now, I think we all agree there's certain needs that the team needs. I think size has been one of those things. I think they still want somebody that can help in those ways, the rebounding, defense, shooting if you can find it. And so there's been a lot of interesting names thrown out there. And so yeah, so if Jared Reiniger is Sam Presti with all of this capital, what would you do to get this team the size that it needs and push it over the hump into the finals next year?
So this is the thing is there's so many options. That's the problem, right? There's a lot of guys. We're in this weird era where you have a lot of like we're in that era where you have a lot of guys that are freaking 7 foot tall that can still shoot a three ball.
Right.
Which 5, 10 years ago didn't exist.
Right.
Um, and so you have this huge influx of that, and that's kind of what you're after. But my pick isn't even that. I think there's somebody. I think there's somebody that you can get cheap. You're not going to have to give up a lot of picks. You're not going to have to give up a lot of maybe even you may not even be able to. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look. I even think you may be able to get him without even trading any players. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm going to say Steven Adams. Now,
Oh
a lot of
wow.
people are going to roll their eyes,
I'm
whatever.
rolling. I'm one of them. All
So
right, sell me.
we'll have to text Troy, and Troy will probably tell me I'm an idiot, and that's fine. I don't think Steven Adams isn't that like complete hybrid player, right? Like he's not a tall big guy that's going to shoot a three ball hardly ever, right? If he's shooting a three ball, we got a problem. But you can get him
Slightly.
cheap. You get him cheap, I think. He's at Houston right now, which I believe Houston's still a little probably desperate for some picks. They're a good team. They're better than I think people think. They were a lot better this year than people thought they were. But I think if you go to them and say we can offer you some draft capital to really boost your um your ability to rebuild and get to that higher level, then you can get him for cheap. He's got his contract right now is 12.6 mil. It expires at the end of next season, right?
Yep.
I think he's familiar with Oklahoma City. He says he loves Oklahoma City. Fans would love him. I like just all those aspects bring it to him. And I think that the big thing that he brings to this team is he brings that gritty leadership.
Yeah. He does do
He
that.
brings you gritty, down hard, play, get the ball. I mean, think about this. I just want you to take it out. And I know this is situational, right? Like this is magnifying it. Take him and insert him for 6, 7 minutes a game against Dallas. You think it plays out a little different when you're losing the rebound battle in pretty much every game? Even if you're at least making them actually fight for it, because as much as we love Chet, right? Like we love Chet. Nobody's saying we don't love Chet. But if you can pull Chet off the court for like 5 minutes a game, right? And put somebody out there like Adams who's going to force somebody to body up and fight him to go get a ball. Luka's not going to be able to just go push his way around Chet, or he's not going to be able to be as physical as easily. It's going to change the dynamic of that game for those however many minutes. So, is there better people out there? There probably is. I didn't get to do as much research, and I didn't get to look at because I wanted to look at contracts, what teams need picks, what teams don't. But Steven Adams, the Houston Rockets, I think that's something that maybe just people should look at.
Yeah. I mean, look, I love Steven Adams. For me, I think it's a terrible fit offensively. I think defensively, setting screens. But we also have to remember Steven Adams hasn't really had a year of health for 2 or 3 seasons now either. That's the other part
Sure.
that would bother me a little bit. But that's fine. Hey, I asked, you gave, which by the way, Troy has responded with I don't know if that will
With face palm.
focus. Yeah. Yep. That's what it is. He just went, "Oh my Lord, that's terrible." Um, all right, so you ready for, well, let's do Troy's. I asked Troy, he said he'd be at the game. I said, "Well, just send me who you would take." He said, "Full send, all in, Lauri Markkanen." He wants to send whatever Utah wants for Lauri Markkanen, which I can't really argue with, right? But I don't know, man. There's something about that move that is just interesting to me. I don't think he's great on defense, but I think he's probably as good as a Josh Giddey, and I think that's who you would end up trading to get there, right? Um, to move along and those kinds of things. Um, he is a unrestricted free agent, though, starting in the 25-26 season. And that's what scares me. That means you get a 1 year of him. One. Because you're not going to pay him big money unless somehow J-Dub just tanks or something crazy like that goes down. There's no way that you're able to re-sign him. So it's a 1 year shot to try to get there and make it happen, right? He's never really won anything in the NBA, all those things. But look, lots of basketball people say that is the spot for the Thunder. Like, that's the move, is to get Lauri Markkanen. So, look, I can't argue with it when that many people are all in favor of it and all over it. So, it's all good. Now, ready for mine. I did do a little bit of a dive at this at lunch today, or yesterday, actually. So I looked for somebody whose contract ran out in 2026, because after the 2026 season is when Chet's contract comes up, J-Dub's contract comes up, and you're going to have Shea's contract coming up, right? So you're going to have cap space, which they have right now. They have about $38 million in cap space currently. So I went through and I looked and I said, look, we need a body that could be a 4/5, defense, shooting, on and on. The guy for me, if I could give up picks and players to get for the next 2 years, so you get a 2-year run at a championship, and then you just got to figure out what to do to fill the rest of the roster after that, is Bobby Portis Jr. from the Milwaukee Bucks. And here's the other thing. The Milwaukee Bucks are in a win now mode. Now that's the problem, because they might not want to give up a Bobby Portis when they're trying to win everything right now. But he is 29, which is not crazy old, but it's not young. You didn't have a good year this year. You are currently sitting at 180, almost 2 million in salaries, which puts you in the tax. And so if you trade him, you have a chance to maybe lower that tax bill and move off of it a little bit. And I think that you could make the pot sweet enough for the Bucks that not only do you give them a player that could impact them right now, but you could also give them a couple picks that would help them rebuild around Giannis if this year goes in the tank and they don't win a championship. And Portis' contract is not even $14 million. I believe it ends out at 13.8, which is about as cheap as you can get in the NBA. So, and by the way, he was what was he? I believe this past season, he was a 40% three-point shooter. And for his career, he's like 35.7, I believe, which is very good. And he's won a championship, and he don't take crap from nobody. He is a guy that's going to get on the floor and scrap if guys want to scrap. So that Dallas series, like you said, I continue to wonder, because the one game that we were getting drummed that we came back and won was the game that Kenrich Williams came into and got into PJ Washington's face and made PJ Washington hide behind a referee while he talked smack. And that was the one guy that got us fired up and going to come back and win a game. And I wonder, with a guy like Bobby Portis on the floor saying, look, I'll get ejected if that's what it takes to let you know that you're not messing with my guys and you're not going to do this crap, I think would help give this team a great edge. Great shooting, decent defense. He's 6'10", 250. He's more than big enough to body in there with some guys. He just doesn't play high above the rim. And that's the only negative I can find on him.
Well, and look, I think that that's kind of the tricky part, right? With trying to find that one guy is I think everybody we've talked about, is it's been one of those things of they need more physicality. They need that
Yes.
edgy player. They need that guy that's going to get in and get dirty. And to have that, and then like I said, that fluid outside shooter type or whatever, more flexible, it's like that's a hard thing to ask for. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't hate either of your picks. Apparently, you guys hate my pick. That's fine. But I don't hate either of your picks. The good news is like I said, the brilliant thing um for where Sam Presti has left OU
The Thunder,
is
you
there's
mean?
plenty of, or sorry, OU left the Thunder. Yes, where Sam Presti has left Thunder is they're in a position where they have all these draft picks. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of teams that are in that position where they're about to have to roll over.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of teams that are going to be desperate for draft picks. Like he's sitting there on a treasure chest, and there's a lot of people that want a little bit of that gold. Um, and so I think that that's going to help him be able to find some of those deals. Like I said, you're going to have to move some players. Like I said, we've talked about Giddy, we've even talked about Dort, we've talked about some of those guys. Maybe a Case and Wallace we've mentioned before,
Yeah.
but the Thunder are in that position where, especially if you look over the last 10 years of the NBA, right? Like you've had to move, every team has had to move a semi superstar or fringe superstar plus some draft or whatever in order to get an elite player or get somebody that really moves the needle
Right.
for their team.
Right.
The Thunder are in a position where it's like they may not. They're not
Right.
going to have to. They're not going to have to move Chet. They're not
Right.
going to have to move SGA to go
Right.
out and get somebody. They
Right.
they have that luxury. So that's the part that if you're an OKC fan, you can rest assured Sam Presti has the ability, he has the
Yeah.
chess pieces in place to make that move.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. And one of the reasons that I got excited when I started trying to kind of figure out how I wanted to search about this, I do want to like tell Thunder fans, like, like for instance, I don't know how many times I've seen on my Twitter timeline or even had people message me or call me or talk to me and they go, "Hey, do you think we really might have a chance at LeBron?" I'm like, no, like, stop it. Like, everybody is thinking to shoot for the moon on a trade move or a free agent move, right? Like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, like all these. Okay, stop. You have your two superstars, and you might have three in Shea, J Dub, and Chet. You don't need another one. What you need is a guy that fills his role at a higher level than Josh Giddey fills in that starting unit. You need a guy that is a size guy that can come in and help keep this team afloat defensively and offensively. And so
Well,
everybody
here's
keeps like shooting for the moon, on these, let's go get Brandon Ingram. It's like Brandon Ingram was like a fringe all-star. Like, the stuff you're going to have to give up money wise and picks wise and player wise is huge. But a guy like Bobby Portis Jr. is a great glue guy. Well, literally, here's what this team needs. It needs a Robert Ory. That's what it needs.
well, here's I think this is the key. I think this is something that a lot of people aren't talking about too. This is where people get into that whole NBA 2K or Madden, whatever you want to call Madden
Right.
mindset or whatever. Well, I want to get the highest overall player.
Right.
It's like that's not how these basketball teams work.
Right.
The one of the biggest strengths I would say of this Thunder team is how much they love playing with each other.
Right.
Like the chemistry on this team has been talked about wide and far across the NBA, not just in Thunder media, not just across other teams, everything that those guys are best friends. They go home and hang out together. Like
Right.
that's who they are. If
Right.
you take a LeBron James, as great as I think LeBron is, whether you like him or not is a whole other conversation.
Right.
LeBron James as a basketball player is phenomenal.
Yep.
If you insert him on this team, how is that going to affect chemistry?
Correct. And that's something you have to evaluate with all these different guys that you're considering. You're dead on right about
Well,
that.
but that's what I'm saying. If you go get one of those top, if you get another top 15 player in the NBA, it is, I don't know. I mean, I would have to really evaluate who the top 15 are, but to get that caliber of player, it's so difficult to take that type of person who has been most likely the face of an
Right.
NBA franchise
Right.
and put him somewhere where he's going to have to be second fiddle
Yeah.
to SGA
Well, look,
at
here's
least.
a perfect example, right? You had two superstars in Dallas that were on fringe play-in game before the trade deadline. Like that was a squad that was not even in the playoffs. And you go trade for PJ Washington and Gafford. Like nobody saw that trade and went, "Ooh, this moves the needle." And yet, since they made that trade, they've literally been one of the top two teams in the entire NBA since then, and they're now in the finals.
Yeah. It
Like,
starts tomorrow, by the way.
right. It doesn't take much. This team is right there. This team gave Dallas a better fight than Minnesota did. Like, this team, supposedly by Kyrie, was the most difficult series he ever played in his career. Like, that's how close this team is to being in the finals right now. And they're going to be better just in maturity next year, period. So, everybody, again, even Lauri Markkanen, that dude's a legit player in this league, but you get 1 year and he's gone, right? LeBron James, who knows how many years you have left before the wheels fall off.
Well,
And he's a superstar that's going to demand the ball from your superstars that you're trying to make a
he's
long run with.
and the thing with Braun, I think, because I've seen people talk about that, and it's like, dude, LeBron is on that weird situation, which I don't want to get too far down this road, but he wants to play with Bronny. He wants to
Yeah,
play with his son. So I'm sure that that's where he's at, right?
right.
Part of me understands that, but Bronny ain't done anything that makes him, aside from him having James as his last name, he ain't done anything to deserve it. But um, you look at that and it's like it's just there's too many factors. And like I said, there's a plenty of guys. People need to stop. As much as I'm a gamer and I love video games, and it's easy to go look at an NBA roster, a Madden roster, or whatever, and see 99 next to LeBron James' name or whatever his rating is, and think, man, if we had that on the Thunder, it's like that's not how basketball actually works.
Right, right, right.
So we have to, like you said, you have to find that piece that fits in other ways other than you can't just say, I'm going to go get the best player in the league that I could possibly get, because that may not actually, you may do subtraction by addition by doing
Right.
that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, but yeah, there's plenty of, like I said, it's been Presti we trust. So
Yeah.
outside of the Hayward trade, I just want him to make sure that he goes to whatever player and says, hey, do you think this is a good trade? If we pass the ball to you, are you going to shoot it? Are you going to take advantage?
Oh my
So
gosh.
anyway,
Well, and look, again, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the Discord. Who would you trade for? Like, who's the player that you would go out and get? Like, I don't think anybody knows what Presti's going to do. So hopefully, if we can get like 10,000 people to respond, we might hit what he actually does. We
yeah.
might actually crack the code and figure it out. Back to softball really quick again. 8-3 win for the Sooners, as we mentioned earlier.
Tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern,
7 o'clock
first pitch.
Central. Yep. And I would just simply say this, man. Number one, I thought the key to that game was the start of it. To come out and get those runs early. Excuse me. And to be really aggressive at the plate and confident, I thought put Texas on their heels in a huge way. Huge shout out to Kelly Maxwell coming out and gutting out 7
Well,
innings, getting a win.
and let's people forget, or let's not forget that she came out in the second or the first inning. She threw let a home run get by her,
Yeah,
so it was 2-1, and
right,
it came, and then just went back to throwing like nothing happened.
right.
Like the mindset was crazy. I'm very interested to see who pitches tomorrow. I don't know if it's Nicole May. I don't know if it's going to be Kelly Maxwell. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Um, but yeah, just a gutsy game. Like you said, they just played unafraid.
Yeah,
And like I said, they just like the confidence. And
yeah,
it really felt like, especially once it started to turn over a little bit, we got to that inning where there was like the back-to-back home runs and stuff, it really kind of felt like OU was feeling like, really felt like they puffed their chest out, and Texas just felt a little shell shocked.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you could just see, I felt like in the first game against the Florida Gators, OU had one of these games, right? Where the things that they were doing was just like, what's happening? I mean, just a lack of focus, a lack of the details. I mean, just so many little things, right? Like Tiare Jennings had some terrible plays in the field that just she never has those plays. Like she never makes those mistakes. Boone diving for a ball that's not even close and on the line that gives up an in the park home run. I mean, like that kind of stuff. And like tonight, like I said, the one play where the catcher thinks it's the third out and throws the ball up in the air, celebrating, only to realize there's only two outs and our girl goes from second to third, and that's what scored her. If she doesn't go over, it's 7 runs, not 8, and that could change the complexion of the game. That could change the intensity of the game. So look, I will say this: Texas is going to come out focused and ready to go tomorrow. They obviously that was not their best game. And OU didn't play their best. Sydney Sanders had some bad plays in the field tonight as well. I thought Boone had a ball she could get to tonight that she didn't. Those kinds of things. But you've put yourself in the driver's seat now. You got to win one. They got to win two. The pressure is all on them. You got a crowd behind you. Man, I tweeted it tonight. I was Boomer Soonerin the whole way. As a realist, I really thought we would lose this game. Just the emotional up and down of having to go against Florida the last 2 days, the physical toll, Kelly Maxwell throwing as much as she has. I was like, look, man, game one's Texas, and then you just got to go fight for game two and hope you can force a game three. And they flipped the script. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually at the gym watching it on the TV. And yeah, when they hit that first home run, I thought, because I felt the same way. I thought it was going to be a close game. But I didn't know, I wasn't super confident we would get a win this first game. Like you said, just because of that emotional roller coaster that you had with Florida. Because I mean, like I said, we were down against Florida even in game two.
Right.
And you had to fight back. So to be here, in that position where now, like you said, you're in the driver's seat and you started off hot, was just not what I expected. So
The cheapest ticket tomorrow night at the 2.5 times larger than the second largest stadium in all the world is $151 right now on
jeez.
SeatGeek. So that's it, and it immediately goes from 150 to 158 to 162. Let's just look here. The second, okay, there's 4 decks of seats at the Devon Park, right? There's the lower bowl, it's kind of got 2 decks, and then the upper one's kind of got 2 decks. The third deck up on the third base side, $324 for a ticket tomorrow.
Yo, can we? This is what's funny. I
This
actually
is
looked this up.
this is OU Texas level cost.
Yeah. By the way, can we all just chuckle a little bit? The Big 12 has to be just pooping itself right
Oh
now.
gosh, yeah. Yeah.
They've got two of their biggest brands
Yes.
are in the Women's College World Series
Yeah.
and going to the SEC. And this is okay. You want to know something different? You know why it's? Let me just read something to you. Devon Field, right? The largest stadium in the world, right? Softball stadium in the world, right?
Right.
Do you know what the number two? You know what the number one largest one is in college softball?
Norman, right?
Yes, Loves Field,
At
Oklahoma,
9,000, right?
4,200.
4,200. I was way
4,200.
off.
Yeah, 4,200. Right. Obviously, brand new stadium. Number two, Alabama at 3,900.
39. Okay. Okay.
Third, Arkansas. Fourth, Arizona, which Arizona's,
Yeah,
they
they've
have a
got a
very
great
illustrious
history.
history.
Yep.
Five, Florida. Six, Missouri. Seven, LSU. Eight, Michigan, which again, a very prominent
Very
softball
history.
school. Nine, Tennessee. 10, Kentucky.
All
So
SEC,
of
baby.
so out of eight of the top 10 teams in the country's largest stadiums are in the
And the
SEC.
SEC. Yeah.
And I want you to notice who isn't on that stadium, who has made a lot, their fan base has made a lot of noise about.
Texas.
Well, yes, but no.
Oh, I don't know.
UCLA.
Oh
Not even on
yeah.
this list. They're below 2,000 capacity.
Oh yeah. They had no one at their regional.
Yeah.
The stands were empty at their regional.
Yeah.
No one cares. No matter how good they are, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's
So,
unbelievable, man. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. Well, and
Um,
again, and not only are the two biggest brands leaving, and not only are the two biggest brands in the finals, they're in the finals for the second time in 3 years.
yeah.
2022 was OU versus Texas too. I mean, so man, I mean, it's a wild,
Yeah, you want
wild
to you want to know
time.
what you get? I want you to give a guess what UCLA's capacity is for their stadium.
1,300.
1328.
Oh,
1328. Yeah. So just wild. Like I said, I just think it's funny. I mean, OU softball team is fantastic. So
yeah.
um
Let's let's
tomorrow
hope
we're
they
gonna have
get
a
it.
we're, tomorrow everybody can have a fun night. We're gonna have NBA finals starting,
Yep.
which again we're sad that the Thunder aren't there, but this series is gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Who are you picking, by
Uh
the way, as we wrap this thing up? Who are
the
you picking in the
Celtics.
finals? And how many games? Did we already talk about this? Did I
Yes,
forget?
yes.
Okay.
I ended up changing mine to 6. I picked Boston at 6.
Oh yeah, you said five, and I was like, what? And
Yeah,
then you
I'm
went
gonna go
six.
6.
Yeah, I think it's Dallas in six. I think it's Dallas.
Dallas and 6. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think Dallas is a much better team than Boston, despite the fact that Boston's very good. So um, we'll see though. But Luca and Kyrie are playing out of their
By the way,
minds.
it has been confirmed. I want to make sure it has confirmed that Porzingis is going to return for game 1.
Great. So Dallas in six.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just,
that does not change my
just
opinion. Now I'll
okay.
be like all the rest when Boston wins by 15 in game one. I'll come on here and talk about how terrible Dallas is and how they have no shot and they're going to get swept. And then they'll win game two, and I'll talk about how they're going to win it in five because now they're going home and everything's going their way. It'll go that way like it always does. So welcome to the
Yeah,
end.
we'll see. So, but yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, just a lot of good sports right now. It's this is the bad thing is we're at the edge of it being the dead zone,
Yes.
right? Where we
Yes.
don't have like basketball's over, softball's over, baseball. Well, I mean, you have MLB, but
Yeah. Who
um,
cares?
the regular season MLB, I'm not a
No.
huge. So yeah, I'm gonna have F1. That's all I'm gonna have to rely on, and that's so intermittent. I mean, it's every other weekend basically, and even it has a break. So
Yeah.
yeah. So which
Be
racing in
crazy.
Canada, by the way, this weekend. So check it out.
All right. Yeah. Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got for tonight. So, again, this is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. We are not journalists. We're fans that just like talking all of this stuff and trying to give our opinion on it. We like to share yours as well. So, always hit us on Twitter, find us in the Discord. Let us know what you think over there as well so that we can add your thoughts into the discussion. We are really grateful if you're listening to this thing. Thanks for being along for the ride. And again, like, subscribe to help us get some more people on for it as well. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. And we're having a great time. We hope you are too. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Baker.